Hi guys, this is Jordan, and on this channel I talk about detransition, mental health issues, body issues, such as that. And today I'm going to be talking about LGBT and the T splitting from the LGB. So I'm going to go through some definitions so we get a clear basis idea of what I'm talking about. So there's also some stuff that has been added, such as queer, intersex, and asexual. And then there's some other stuff too, such as pansexual, two-spirit. There's just so many letters. Very confusing now. And then there's like two twos, from what I can remember from the acronym. It's a very long acronym filled with very diverse different things. And I'd like to discuss about that too. So the first definition I'm going to go with is L, which is lesbian, is a woman who is physically and romantically attracted to women. Gay, a person who, usually referring to a man, is a person who is attracted to one's own sex. Bisexual is a romantic attraction to people of a different gender as well as their own. And trans, denoting a person whose gender identity does not correspond with sex registered at birth. And I'd also like to add trans woman, a male at birth who lives and identifies as a woman. I think that's a pretty good definition for that. And then gender is the male sex or the female sex, usually social and culture differences, or a range of identities that do not correspond to the established ideas of male and female. Sex, either male or female reproductive functions, biological attributions, and I'd also like to go into the physical characteristics that comes with. The physical characteristics, secondary sex characteristics, all that. Since I'm talking about the separation of gender identity and sexual orientation, since they're two distinct different things, even though we lump them into one, and people often get confused about that, I'd like to say that we should separate them because people are confused, and also one relies on sex because of their sexual attraction, meaning sex, role attraction, and one relies on this ludicrous idea that you can change genders. I don't think that we should be put together with people who have a mental illness who aren't completely in reality. And also because, lesbians are attracted to biological women who have an innie, I'll just say for YouTube's sake. Gay men are attracted to an outie, and trans kind of erases that because suddenly you can identify as anything and anyone when you're not born that way. So I'm going to get into my opinions and thoughts about this. I don't think that we should separate gender and sex at all because I don't know why we did that. Because it's like a man can have, I can culturally be like a woman, right? You can clean the house and do what stereotypical women do and still be a man. Whoop-de-doo. And establish ideas of what a man or a woman is like. A lot of the time, which this is why it's conflated with gender identity, gay men will act a certain way, gay women will act a certain way, not always, sometimes. More often than straight people do. There's still straight men that act this way too, or there's still straight women that act this way. It presents slightly different, but that's probably why gender and sexual orientation get confused, is because of this established roles that we have, which these are stereotypes. I don't think stereotypes should define gender, but I guess it does. Sex has a reliable definition, I believe, because we can look at this, we can observe it. We don't have to ask any questions, on people's feelings, because, yeah, that's all it is. Gender is like a state of feeling. Like for a lot of these people, they feel this way. They have some type of psychosis, some type of delusion, childhood trauma, not wanting to be gay, not wanting to be lesbian, getting sexual arousal from being perceived as a woman, or sexual arousal from being perceived as a man, autism, narcissism, and they have maybe some nonconforming behavior, like I said, because, since gender is like basically nothing now, you could have this nonconforming behavior and not feel like you're sex, but you're still your sex, regardless of what you do. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that trans people can't actually transition. I mean, they can kind of make it seem like they are, because they're taking the wrong hormones and they're cutting up their bodies to reshape it, but they don't change sex. I've never seen a woman go from a woman to a man. So that's why I think MTF or FTM, that doesn't really exist. It's really just man on estrogen, female on testosterone. This isn't the healthiest treatment for them, but it gets the job done, I guess. It shouldn't be the standard of practice. In fact, I think an endocrinologist who prescribes people wrong sex hormones is malpractice, because it's going to contribute to a lot of these negative side effects, like blood clots, heart disease, diabetes, high triglycerides, strokes, liver disease because of taking oral estrogen or oral testosterone, kidney problems, bladder problems, thyroid issues, and vaginal dryness and erectile dysfunction. And these can contribute to more things because of the weakened pelvic floor, which is kind of dangerous. And I wouldn't recommend this treatment long term, definitely not. It's going to contribute to this stuff, and it's not going to be pretty. Certain types of cancers could be acclimated, high risk for some cancers. It's just not the perfect treatment. And I don't, because like trans people want to renounce their sex, right? And gay people are attracted to sex. That's that's what we're attracted to. We're attracted to the genitalia. We're also attracted to the people too. Since I'm bisexual, I'm attracted to really the person. I'm a little bit different because there's this thing called demisexual, which I am, which is basically you're attracted to someone for having some familiar experience with. I'm sure everyone's a little bit demisexual because you need to have a little bit of that to get aroused, is what I believe. But we got these people that believe that they're not their sex, even though they are. And if you date a trans woman, you are gay if you're a man. And if you date a trans man, you're gay if you're a woman. That's biological reality. You were attracted to the sex, not the gender, the fabricated reality. Though we might be attracted to the secondary sex characteristics, but when it comes down to it, if you're gay, you're not going to be attracted to a woman on testosterone. You're just not. It's just not going to cut it for you. Now, I don't want lesbians to feel pressured to date a trans-identified man who's attracted to women, and vice versa, because they're gay. They don't want a man, and the men don't want a woman. You can't convert them this way. You're playing with their sexual orientation, though they could possibly be bi too, who knows. But if they're really firm in their sexual orientation, they won't be attracted to someone who identifies as the opposite sex when they're not. Now I'm going to talk about these people coming into our spaces, LGBT, and yes, I know that T kind of helped with starting the movement, helping with it, but it was really this cross-dresser, I believe. I will specifically name him. So his name was Marsha P. Johnson. Marsha Pay It No Mind Johnson was a black trans woman, man identifying as a woman, who helped lead the LGBTQ plus movement in New York City for nearly 25 years. He was a drag performer and sex worker who poured all his energy into advocating for trans and homeless youth, sex workers, people living with HIV, AIDS, incarcerated people. Well, I believe he could have done this without thinking he was a woman when he was just a drag performer. And it specifically says she, but I'm pretty sure he was a he, because I don't think women can be drag performers. I know some of y'all want to be, but you're just not man enough to do it. I don't know. I mean, I've been commented by some various women who identify as men that they want to be drag queens. They want to be kind of like a man, like me. I also want to do drag too. And they want to be kind of like me and go into spaces like me. It's just awkward to have a woman in that type of environment. Not trying to be kind of sexist, it might sound like I am, but drag has always been traditionally for men, not women identifying as men, not women. It's a man's only game. But anyways, this trans-identified male apparently led the way for us, but here's the thing. He didn't help with LGBT. He probably was trying to indoctrinate people with his own beliefs, and that was the issue there. It really seems like he was, from just some of the things I've learned about him, and going to this one LGBT meeting at school. I learned a little bit about him, and I don't know, it really always seemed a little bit weird to me. Just something like in the back of my mind felt weird. So I've had this weird feeling for years. But these people, these trans-identified males that are attracted to women, they go into lesbian spaces, and then they go into gay people spaces, bisexual people spaces in general, LGBT people spaces. They're not lesbian. They share their experience, and it's just really ridiculous and hard to watch. And I'm sure a lot of people feel that way too. They feel kind of awkward with these type of people coming into their spaces. I'm sure women are, with Leah Thomas and that whole thing. But it's just awkward for even gay and lesbians and bisexual people, because it's like these people don't have our same experiences. They're nonconforming, yes, that's a little bit kind of fitting into our communities, but at the same time, they're still straight. They're still straight men, they're still straight women that think they're lesbians or gay men, which they're not. So I don't see a reason why they would come into our spaces. It's just awkward. And by spaces, I mean the LGBT group, for people that need like some type of therapy, a therapy setting with different gay people, different bisexual people, because it is hard to be gay and bisexual when the world is a lot different for you, because it's like most people are attracted to the opposite sex. And it's just really awkward when a person that doesn't really need that support comes into our group. Another thing is, I don't think they need to go into women's spaces where there's children. That's just really awkward, especially for the ones that look completely like their sex. They don't look kind of ambiguous at all. I would even argue that Marcus going into my space is a little awkward, because I bet, in real life you can tell that she's a woman, easily. And they'll make these arguments saying, well, I fit in more with you, I have more experiences like you, I'm stereotypically treated like you, I go in the world like you. They'll make an array of different arguments, so many ridiculous arguments. Well, I look like you. Which is to deflect from the real truth, which is that they're still their sex. Like Marcus, for example, she's a straight woman. I don't think she fits in more with us because she got a double mastectomy and took testosterone. There's a lot more to being a man than that. And she knows it. She says she's not a man, so she knows it. Blair, though, I'd be happy to accept Blair into our circles because he's obviously having internalized homophobia, possibly at a young age. and mixed with some trauma and some of this kind of two colliding beliefs. He knows what he is, but at the same time, he doesn't want to accept it. So he's got these two colliding beliefs happening at the same time. Not saying someone is like totally mentally ill for that, like they can't function in society at all. I've seen Blair's videos. He functions really well. He can do everything. He's gone above and beyond, and I really see him for that. That's really amazing. But he's got to accept what he is at the end of the day and not trick people and deceive people. And yes, he's like the 1% of trans people that pull it off without any mental problems or physical problems happening or psychological, no issues. He's one of the richest kind of profiters on this. I see people like Blair and Marcus transitioning a lot of people that wouldn't have done it in the first place, like conservatives and people who don't hold gender ideology to the extreme. It's still not good. What I recommend is therapy for these people. Obviously, I recommend that before any of this treatment, and it shouldn't be a gender therapist. They should get proper treatment for their dissociation from reality, and get rehabilitated into reality. Now, as for gay people and lesbian people and bisexual people, we need to stand together and just be ourselves and love who we love, and it's a beautiful, wonderful thing. And we shouldn't let these people kind of impede on our rights, impede on our spaces. And we know right from wrong. We know what's going on, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. I promise to kind of fight this because it's not right. It's not right what they're doing. It really isn't. I don't like them impeding in my spaces and making me feel uncomfortable, because it makes me feel uncomfortable. A lot of them are real narcissists, or they're very delusional, and it's just not fair. I might sound like a broken record here, but if there's one thing that is positive about this movement, it's the fact that maybe gender nonconforming people can become more prominent because of this non-binary thing. And speaking of sexual orientation and non-binary and stuff, there's lesbians that say that they're non-binary. So they both announce that they're women attracted to women, but then in the same breath say that they're not women. So make it make sense, like Blair always says, his famous phrase. And let's not, it's like, yes, those people, I would accept, women that think they're like, I don't know, not their sex. Trans-identified women that are attracted to women, those people belong in my space too, because those people are lesbians. Like Jamie Dodger, she's a lesbian, she might not accept it, but she's a lesbian. I would allow her in my space. Not that I have to gatekeep this stuff. I don't want to have to gatekeep this stuff. I think that we should sex segregate things like we had always been doing. And what I mean by space is the LGBT group and support. And separating by sex would mean that the trans-identified people who are straight would be gay, because that's what they are. But we kind of lost our mind and kind of allowed these people to walk over us, which I don't think is right. The society's going to break into anarchy if we allow these people to walk all over us and allow them to impede on our rights. It's not right. It needs to be sex segregated. Yeah, so I would allow those people in my space. I would allow men that think they're non-binary but are attracted to men, or both men and women, into my space. And then there's a lot of different gender identities now, like genderqueer, gender fluid, non-binary, all that stuff. And this stuff is usually, and like I've said in my previous videos, it is usually a fabrication of your mind, or it's this, like I said, from the definition of gender earlier. It's these range of identities that do not correspond to established ideas of male and female. I see that as very reducive. I see it as very regressive to use these stereotypes. And then we come up with these identities because of these stereotypes. Like, I'm sure a lot of people mistaken me for, like, part of the non-binary people because I wear makeup, I wear nail polish, I wear colorful shirts, stuff like that. I wear earrings. I'm still a man. There's no changing that. And I don't believe that established rules change your gender, change who you are. I think that you're born as who you are. You're a boy, you grow up as man. You're a girl, you grow up as a woman. And sexual orientation, okay, I'll tell you something. You start to develop that around puberty. You start to develop that because you start to get feelings for same sex, both sexes. Because, I don't know, that's flight of hormones. That's what happens. And that's a biological thing. Being a lesbian, being gay, being bisexual, that's a biological thing that happens. It's triggered through your hormones, through all this stuff. By the way, I want to put this note in here. When we stop kids' puberty with the puberty blocking hormones, we make it so that they don't have this sexual attraction. So therefore, we take away their sexual identity. That's awful. That's very reducive and frankly homophobic by some accounts. And gender is made up concept. Gender is fabricated. Gender is reductive, reducing ideas. Very stereotypical, very reducive ideas that only hurt people because it confuses people. I don't think it's bad to be non-binary. I don't think it's bad to be gender fluid, gender anything. It's bad because you can't accept who you are, really. You really can't, because you think that you have to be something different than you are because you don't follow all these rules to a T. Let me tell you something. None of us follow all these rules to a T. Even when I was identifying as a trans woman, I didn't follow all of the little ideas that meant to be a woman. Because that would be very reductive. Reducing women to just being like this or that when there's tomboys, and reducing men to this or that when there's femboys. We don't think about this stuff, though. We just don't. Instead, we hop on the trans bandwagon. Also, just because you have body dysmorphia doesn't mean you're the other gender. That's not reality. And the only way that we do, and which is the proper way of reducing people, is by their sex, because that is physical, that is biological, that is the reality of the situation. You may want to deny that, but at the end of the day, you have to try to accept it as reality. It's what we have, it's what we are. When it comes to trans people, though, so you see a woman on testosterone, a man on estrogen, it's, you still have to ask their pronouns and stuff, because you can't really tell sometimes if they're male or female. They'll look very ambiguous a lot of the time, especially the women on testosterone, because their voices drop, they get facial hair a little bit, they look like they have PCOS or something. And it's hard to, some people will be attracted to that type of stuff. I could see, myself maybe being a little bit attracted to a trans man. I don't know. Since they're on these hormones, it atrophies their genitalia, makes the women's vaginas more dry. It makes it harder for you to even pursue something romantic or physical, because they're getting messed up. Their body's getting messed up. There's no way around it. It's like sleeping with a menopausal woman. Not that that's bad. Like, if I was a man that was older, I would accept that, right? But I'm a young man. I don't need to accept a woman who's, 20, but she's going through menopause because of testosterone. That's not attractive to me right now. It's not attractive to a lot of men. It's not attractive to a lot of women, because, I'm sure a lot of lesbians appreciate it when their partner has some lubrication and, they don't have to treat her like she's like a menopausal woman. You know what I mean? Or vice versa, like when, a gay man is like intimate with another gay man, that thinks he's a woman, and his dick, it's not working, it's pointing down like this. That's not sexy to gay men. That's not sexy to me. I mean, I don't see that as sexy. That's kind of sad. And then, the guy will have gynecomastia and stuff, and it's like, oh, you can tell that his physical health is not doing too well since he's got these, like the gynecomastia and stuff. It's an indicator of poor health. It's not an indicator of secondary sex characteristics. Same with the women on testosterone, the beard, deeper voice. That is an indication that there is some problems with the hormones and it's not attractive, because we value health. We do. As a society, we value health. It's beautiful. Like, health is beautiful. That's all you need in life. Like, if you take care of your skin, right? You take care of your nails, you take care of your hair, you're more of a beautiful person, You're more of a beautiful person, and then you have that charisma to go along with it. To me, I see a lot of these trans people not have that charisma. You want to know why? Because they're trying to make a fabricated reality, and that's ruining their charisma. It gives this almost like, like if you want to date one, it's like, it gives this almost like weird vibe effect. Like when I was on estrogen and transitioning, and a lot of trans-identified males and females, well, mostly the males, trans-identified males, will look very creepy. No offense. I'm not saying this offensively, but will look very creepy, and people will notice that. They'll be like, what's up with this person? Like this woman's like 5'9", she, not that you can't be a tall woman, but you're a guy, so it's like, oh, this person's a little off. And they'll notice that too. One of my friends even said that, and she was more attracted, and she's bisexual, so when I detransitioned, she was more attracted to me. A lot of people will be, because it's like when you look your sex, you're more attractive. When you have your secondary sex characteristics of your observed gender at birth, you look more healthy. You have less of these health complications that come with transition. You see, that's why we need to advocate for healthiness in this country, not aesthetical value, because I don't see this as attractive either. When people start cutting up their faces, like cosmetic surgery and stuff, and, getting breast implants and all these silicone injections, a BBL, I don't see it as attractive. Even if it looks natural, and I find out that it's not, and it's not attractive, because it's like, you don't deserve this. You obviously don't. You weren't born with that. And your body dysmorphia gave you that. You let your body dysmorphia give you this stuff. That tells me more about you as a person than you think it does. Because it's like when you're very vain, you go on hormones, you go on HRT, you start cutting up your body and stuff. I see that as very vain. I see it as very vain. I see it as you're going with your mental disorder. And as a bisexual man, I see that as very gross and unattractive. And frankly unhealthy. That's really unhealthy. Yeah, that's my thoughts for today. I'm sorry if this offended someone, because I'm only trying to say what I see and what I see as the truth for me. This is my opinion. A lot of people will say, oh, it's my truth. The trans people will say, oh, and this is my truth. No, you have your kind of lie that you tell yourself, your fabricated lie that you're like a woman when you're not, or a man when you're not. But like, this is my opinion. Yeah, that's about it.